This is Why Am I a Mets Fan? A podcast hosted by Samantha Croston and Ashley Wenskoski.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. That's Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston, and we are two Syracuse-based sports reporters with a Mets and baseball podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We're joining you after July 4th. Happy 4th of July. And a Subway Series recap with a lot to discuss. Some positive things, even.
Happy 4th of July to all who celebrate and even who don't. The Mets, the Yankees, the Subway Series in Queens. We had some fireworks over this 4th of July. Who would have thought? Like, we need to start off by acknowledging something. Our last episode, you all can go back and watch. That was a crash out of all crash outs. The New York Mets, that was a 40-minute rant therapy session. And you all took to it, and I appreciate you for that.
A prayer circle, even.
It was a prayer circle. And you know what? Sometimes a prayer circle is good for the community, and I feel like that was healing and good for our collective community here. To turn the page, we can be a little bit more positive this week.
100%. And I actually think the next time that the Mets go down a hole like that, if and when that happens, you and I will be having our own team meeting. There will be accountability. And on the other side of that, look what happened. Amazing things.
Great stuff.
Maybe they watched. Maybe Mets players watched it and heard.
Somebody in the comments, shout out if this was you, said the New York Mets need to sit down and watch all 41 minutes of this episode. And honestly, like, that's all I need to hear. Everyone is... Usually the comments are quite nice to us, and I appreciate you all for that, but that really struck a chord with me.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you so much to that commenter. All right, well, the Mets have won 2 series in a row, so Ashley's right. Expect some positivity. Over the Brewers and the Yankees, no less. 2 really good teams. Currently, the Mets are 52-39, second place in the NL East, and 1.5 games behind the Phillies. The Brewers series, I guess we'll just kind of hit on that first and then talk about the Yankees. But the Brewers series, the Mets play a doubleheader on Wednesday because of Tuesday's rainout. And, well, this was really the beginning or the start of something new.
An upward trajectory, you might say. We talked about the fact that they had to face Jacob Misiorowski, who had been doing really well since the Brewers called him up. A guy that people are talking about, could be an NL Rookie of the Year candidate. Well, they handed him his first loss in the second game of that doubleheader. Even Blade Tidwell pitched well, which we talked about last time, had been few and far between. And then on Thursday, Peterson pitched a gem. And so he's getting back to normal, and the Mets eked out a close one there, even with Jose Quintana pitching really well on the other side of that for the Brewers. The Mets eke out a win. Peterson pitched really a gem, 1 earned run over 6 2/3. Great to see him get back to normal, and just great to see the Mets win a series over the Brewers. The Brewers are a sneaky team in the NL this year. I guess they were last year too, if you think about the wild card series. But the Brewers are a good team. I saw Jeff Passan say today that he feels like the Brewers are one big bat away from being a World Series contender. A World Series contender.
And if Passan's saying it, it's got to have some truth to it.
And if Jeff's saying it, and if the manager, Pat Murphy, is from Syracuse, who knows what could happen?
Who knows what could happen? I totally agree. I think we talked about this a little bit last week, but Peterson was for a while that one shining star, and you really needed him back and to be having good starts. So it was great to see that. I take that away as the best thing from that series. We move on to the Subway Series recap, where the Mets take 2 out of 3 despite having a crazy pitching situation going into it. I have to say, I don't think most people would have predicted that.
All right. Most people would have predicted that. First of all, it's Monday night. We came out on the other side of this. We can take a deep breath now. But going into the weekend, it's the 4th of July. It's the Subway Series. Everybody's feeling good. You can go to Citi Field, celebrate your holiday. Everybody's off on Friday. Great. Well, the New York Mets were really throwing a tantalizing combination of probables in there. It was
That's
literally
a
tantalai. New one unlocked. It was literally TBD, Frankie Montas, TBD. It was Frankie Montas and pray for rain. And honestly, I'm praying for rain when Frankie Montas is pitching to begin with. It was just pray for rain.
She said she wouldn't even go. She wouldn't go because it was
I was
Montas.
considering going to the game on Saturday, July 5th, and I was not in attendance. And I should have, because it was a wonderful day.
Yeah, it really was.
Anyway.
Listen, both teams actually came into this series struggling.
Yeah.
I guess that was the one thing you could point to and feel a little hopeful about. And in this instance, hope would have been a good thing if you had done it. Can't say we did that last week, but if you had done it, good for you. You saw something that we didn't. But yes, essentially they were planning on throwing 2 bullpen games. Let's start on Friday, July 4th. The Mets win 6-5. It was on America's birthday. I mean, what is more America than a 6-5 win over the New York Yankees? I can't think of much. But Justin Hagenman was pitching, the New Jersey native. He gave up 4 earned runs on 3 home runs and 5 hits in that time frame. So you decide. But the Mets hit well enough, or Hagenman pitched well enough, or both, for them to ultimately win this game. But in all reality, I think you give the credit to the hitting and to Reed Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like somehow, some way, through the grace of maybe Jesus Christ himself, did Justin Hagenman even get through 4 1/3 innings? Okay, no one was expecting that from Justin. When they announced him as, I don't even know what you want to call him, the spot starter, the warm body who was going to go out there and take the mound to start the game. Like, that could have been an inning and a third situation. That could have been a 2 1/3 situation. Like, whoa. Justin got through 4 1/3, and for that, we give him credit. He has, I might remind everyone, a 6.21 ERA at AAA Syracuse. So you know what, Justin? When you're taking that into account, you perform just fine.
And he's going to have that for the rest of his life, knowing that
Justin will always have that.
Like, he'll just have, it's just cool to know that he'll have that July 4th really spot start where he and the Mets won 6-5 against the Yankees. That's awesome for him, and like his dad, I feel like, is beaming somewhere.
Yeah, happy birthday to America, and also Justin in that instance. Anyway, so then he comes in, he throws 4 1/3. I mean, we are gonna say some names in the next about 10 minutes of this Subway Series recap that you are probably a diehard Mets fan, and if you didn't watch this weekend, you're gonna be like, who is that? I've never heard of that in my life.
You're gonna think that if you did watch it. I said to Ashley before we got onto this episode, I'm like, are these just fans they pulled off the street, sincerely?
Could be anyone.
Who's to say? It's crazy, some of the names that were being pulled out of the hat.
Pulled out of literally the guy in the first row, okay? Subway Series, start your engines. The guy in the first row is pitching. Anyway, sorry. So Hagenman came in. Then Austin Warren, he pitched an inning in relief. Who's Austin Warren? I don't know before this weekend. And then we got some names that we did know. Reed Garrett came in. He was locked down for 2 scoreless, and he got the save. I mean, you have to think about the Mets. And then they replicated this on Sunday, which we'll talk about in a minute, got 6 innings in this game by guys who aren't even going to be on the team in like a week.
I want to say congratulations for that, but I feel fearful that is the reality. You know, like at some point, where is Manaea? Where is...
He's coming.
I
coming.
Need him.
I know.
need my king back.
I know. No,
Okay.
Warren immediately, and then it's funny because like the reward for these guys, it's like, oh, great work, Austin. Here is your one-way ticket to Syracuse. You have a great time.
I love how you always say one way.
It is not a 2-way ticket. No one's coming back. It is one way.
Really quick flight though, by the way. Very easy flight. 45 minutes in the air.
Really up down.
But who's wanting to take
Don't
that
check
flight?
a bag.
It's really not worth it. It's not worth it.
No,
you may as
don't.
well carry it on.
Carry it on.
You know, I always was a checked bag individual. I'm an overpacker.
Yeah,
It's filled
me
to
too.
the gills with things I don't need. You know, they always have those memes about, oh, and now I'm bringing these striped pants I've never seen before and this weird one piece.
And
That
this
is
top
me.
I found.
This top I found. Makeup I have not used in a decade.
Yeah.
And it's all going on the flight. I'm not doing that anymore. Because I'll tell you what, just for the first time, I went to Las Vegas this past weekend. Crazy place, by the way. What a time.
Las Vegas 4th of July is a whole other episode at some point.
Remarkable. That's an extra inning. We will not be discussing that here. Had a great time though.
We're gonna keep
party
that
my ass off
in Vegas.
Yes, we will. What happens? There's a reason for the phrase. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
But I just brought a carry-on. It's just such an easier traveling experience. I don't know that I'll ever not do it that way again. Do you always just carry a bag on?
Well, okay. I should start. I used to be a checked bag person because like you, I needed all my things. I needed all my, then when I'm like, okay, can I fit all this into a carry-on? You do some mental math in your head. Do I need to pay for the bag? Whatever. So yes, long story short, I've gotten more into just the carry-on lately. But
Long story short, you're broke.
Long story short, I'm broke. But anyway, besides for that, no, you know what I was going to say is You know what I was going to say is...
All roads lead back to
all
that.
roads lead to being broke. No, I was going to say the elite plane experience is when you do have the carry-on, and then when you're like at the gate, I don't know what that's called. It has a name, but it's like, they're like, oh, like the plane's run out of overhead space. We're just going to check that for you. Let me take it out of your hands.
Bingo.
Great. Let you take it out of my hands. Awesome.
Bingo. That happened to me on the flight.
Yeah.
They're, oh, yeah. And I totally know what you're talking about.
Yep.
And the little pink tag, and there it goes.
Great.
I'm doing that from
Will
now
it make
on.
it there? Who's to say? But I don't have to carry it.
That's none of my business. I'm hands-free now. That's all I ever wanted.
Hands-free.
Anyway.
Anyway. The Mets won on Friday, that's all.
The Mets won, and Soto, just to say it,
yes,
3 for 4 with a home run, double, and a single, falling just a triple shy of the cycle in that Mets 6-5 comeback win. So honestly, that shows me something. Not just the fact that he's performing, but to know that he's doing it in front of the Yankees. Great. Makes me feel great.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. We saw the first version of Soto in the first Subway Series in the Bronx earlier this season, and that was not a good experience for Juan. He was getting booed up, down, and sideways. Yankee Stadium was ablaze with Juan Soto hatred, and he did not perform. And so, of course, he felt a little more comfortable this time around, right? The games are at Citi Field. Okay, it's been a few more months. We've been hot lately. And he did really well, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, but quite the snub, so sorry, for good old Juan for the All-Star game, because he's really heated up lately, and he was great in this series. So
that takes us to Saturday, July 5th, where the Mets have a resounding 12-6 win.
And I was not there.
That's a statement win. Frankie Montas win, and a win that Ashley was not, in fact, at. She was down in Ottsville.
I was floating down a river. Yes, the Mets won a game that Frankie Montas started, so just hide your wives, hide whoever you need to hide. But Frankie Montas, I should really emphasize here, though, because I am going to continue the Frankie Montas hate train until I have a reason not to.
We know.
Frankie Montas was not the reason that they won the game. In fact, he sort of did his best effort to put them in a hole early on again. 5 2/3. 4 earned runs, 2 home runs, 2 strikeouts, 5 hits. I mean, honestly, he really still sort of sucked. They just hit enough to survive it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Nimmo grand slam, 2 Alonso homers. He's up to 20, 73 RBI. 5 in that game alone. I mean, damn.
Yeah, Petey's been cooking with gas. Nimmo's second grand slam of the week. That's a funny stat, right? Like, grand slams are so few and far between, even if you have been hot, which we've been on Brandon Nimmo, but he's been kind of locked in for the last month at the plate.
Yep.
2 grand slams in a week. That's like he's going to sit around the fire one day with his grandkids and be like, you know what, honey? One time I hit 2 grand slams in a week.
I totally agree. That's something that you're going to remember forever. Lindor was also 2 for 3 with an RBI. I mean, this is the kind of Mets team that, again, we all just know exists.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of whether or not it's going to show up or it's not.
Yes.
And when the guys at the top of the lineup, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 on a good day show up, it feels like that's actually all you need. 6 through 9, perhaps that's an extra innings episode because there's a lot of extra things that I feel like need to be said.
Yeah.
But this is great. This was great to see. And I know they did a couple lineup changes. They had Nimmo starting at leadoff a couple times there, didn't they, this week?
Yep.
I like the fact that sometimes you need to do change for the sake of it. I think when it's just really not going well, you sometimes just need to change one thing up in hopes that something good happens. And it did.
Yeah.
So congratulations to the Mets on that. Beyond that, you have anything else to say on Montas? We're pretty good on that, I think, for now, right?
No, just to reiterate what you said, when the lineup performs the way it should on paper, you can survive your starting pitching sucking.
And last week, for some reason, I wasn't thinking that was true. I think because we just hadn't seen it a lot.
Because they were all sleeping?
They really were, and it made me think, wow, the pitching is going to be too difficult to overcome here. There's too many holes. But then I see them hit this way, and I'm like, wait, wow. You know what? You could get by like that until they're back at full strength again.
Which is like, I will say, we're addedly optimistic about that because that's like this week, right? Senga, Manaea, we'll get into it in a minute, might come back this week. If we still had we're going to throw, 2 bullpen games, a bullpen game every time around the rotation, no. We feel better because reinforcements are on the way.
Correct. And we'll talk about that in our Syracuse segment of the show. Sunday, July 6th, the Mets lost 6-4, but every single person went into that game, I really feel like essentially knowing they were going to lose. It was a death sentence. And for some reason, I actually know the reason. It's because they won the first 2 games. Nobody had a problem with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, you went into this, you knew they were throwing a bullpen game, right? It's like Brandon Waddell, Chris Davinsky, Zach Pop. Like, who is Zach Pop?
What in the Zach Pop is going on?
Literally. Snap, crackle, pop. Like, what are we doing?
What in the Rico Garcia are we doing?
What if anything? No, a win on Sunday would have been really purely just a bonus. They got 8 innings in this game from guys who just do not even belong on this roster, right? You see them fall behind early, right? The Yankees take like a 5-0 early lead. Judge hits like a 2-run home run. But actually, I was encouraged by the fact that the Mets didn't just punt on this game, right? Okay, against the Pirates, and in the recent few weeks slide that we've had, the Mets were punting on some games. I think we can all admit that to ourselves. Morale was low. Even in this game, they fall behind 5-0. It's the Yankees. You got like Chris Davinsky out there on the mound, and they still hit. They fought back in the later innings. They made it 5-4. Judge added on some late insurance on a sacrifice fly in the 7th, and they lost. But you like the fight that you saw, at least hitting with runners in scoring position. And I like the fight I saw. Carlos Mendoza was upset. I mean, you want to talk about a tantrum. He's out there. He's screaming at the ump, who, by the way, did suck. Didn't even put this in here, but forgot about it. I think his name's like Jeff Bacon, John Bacon. He was not baking. He was not cooking.
No.
He was awful.
Yeah, he was.
And Carlos Mendoza really let him know. Even they were about to lose the game. It was like the 9th inning, and Carlos Mendoza's kicking dirt on home plate. Like, appreciate
he
it.
got thrown out.
I know.
Like, I can't believe, like, and honestly, that's just a statement at that point because, as you said, it is truly the 9th inning. But I'm happy that he made that statement.
I said I wanted to see some fire last week. I got some fire.
You got some firepower for sure. Not to mention, you said, the fact that they were fighting back in the end, and it's coming from some different people even there. McNeil, have to say, McNeil has been performing well lately. Lindor, and you even have Hayden Sanger in there. I have to say, I am at this point legitimately like a Hayden Sanger super fan. From Wegmans to Trueborn winner. I mean, what else is there to say? Oh, it was Whole Foods?
Still, though, it fits the alliteration.
Yeah. The point is W to W. I mean, I'm so happy just to see this guy just get a couple chances, and I feel like every time he is making the most of his moments. Good for you, Hayden Sanger. Good for you.
Hayden Sanger has to be the most successful former Whole Foods worker at this point. If you all know another one, you let me know. But as of right now, I'm giving Hayden Sanger that distinction.
I was just about to say Whole Foods wall of distinction.
Yep.
Hayden Sanger.
No one else.
No, I mean, that is really cool.
Remarkable.
Employee of the month, if nothing else.
Yes.
All right. The point is, all in all,
all.
It was a good Subway series. The Mets and Yankees split the season series with 3 wins apiece. The Yankees took 2 out of 3 in the Bronx. Mets took 2 out of 3 at Citi Field. How do you feel about that?
Can I say something?
You sure can.
I saw some Yankees fans. I did not get the chance to listen to Yankee sports talk radio after this weekend, which I'm sure was a fantastic experience, very pleasurable. Unfortunately, I only saw the social media, and I saw some people trying to sort of console themselves, because personally, if I'm the Yankees, right, the Yankees came into this first of all on like a 6-game losing streak. Or they came into it with a 4-game losing streak, lost the first 2. They lost 6 in a row. They're down there in second place in the AL East. The Blue Jays never win, but the Blue Jays are in first place in the AL East. Like, oh my God, what's going on? All that to say, if I'm a Yankees fan, I'm feeling pretty upset because not only did I lose 2 out of 3 in the Subway Series and I've fallen into second place, the Mets tried to hand me the series on a silver platter. They said, here you go. We have no starting pitchers whatsoever. Frankie Montas doesn't even count. You can have the series sweep if you want it.
And honestly, there is not a doubt in my mind that on the Yankees sports radio, that's what they were discussing. If you're a Yankees fan, you're so upset knowing that that was such a missed opportunity there. I mean, it couldn't have been set up better. It couldn't have been easier. Like, the only thing I can think of is it could have been at Yankee Stadium. I guess that's it. But
So the copium that some Yankees fans were on, new word unlocked, copium. I haven't used that one in a really long time. They were saying on social media, the Yankees, they split the season series. Each team won 3 games. The Yankees won the first 2 out of 3. The Mets won the second. They were like, oh, the Yankees really won because they beat the run differential. They scored more runs throughout the run total. I'm like, if you're getting into run differential, you might need to take a look in the mirror.
You're going to need to go outside, perhaps mow the lawn, drink a beer, and find a hobby. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares about the run differential at that. Not a soul.
Not at that point.
No, not at that point.
No,
it's not.
No,
don't be looking in that direction. Just you know what I mean.
No. I don't want to hear that from you. If you just got torched in Queens.
Come on. Let's be honest. Let's hold ourselves accountable. If that's what we're wanting from the players. Let's get a grip. That brings us to. Or wait, did you want to say something about your friend Danny?
Well, Danny, this was our, we used to have a Tweet of the Week segment, and it unfortunately has sort of fallen by the wayside.
And that's on us to hold ourselves accountable.
Hold ourselves accountable there. Danny has my Tweet of the Week. I'm resurfacing it. He works for SNY. He said, the Yankees needed a few minor acts of God to eke out a win over a Mets team that spent 8 of 9 innings trotting out pitchers who will likely be ticketed for AAA over the next week.
One-way ticket.
One way. Really nice series win for the Mets and a strong 4 2 showing against the Brewers and the Yankees. And that is a really nice way to sum it up, right? Brewers and Yankees coming into town. The Mets on an all-time slide. They can't buy a win, and they went 4-2. I'll take that.
I will totally take that. I feel happy about that. It brings us to the Mets All-Star selections and the Soto snub. Although I'm sure some people are going to say they don't view it that way, but I totally get why it's written that way. All right, Francisco Lindor is going to start at shortstop for the NL for the first time in his career. His 5th overall selection.
We're so happy for Frankie.
Woo!
You know, he really, that is one of those players that, I know the All-Star game, people are like, oh, it's a popularity contest, the whole 9. I know. But that is one of those things. You look at the career Francisco Lindor has had, both in Cleveland and in New York, and that is unbelievable that he's never started an All-Star game, especially when he was in Cleveland.
That's the all-time snub.
Yeah.
Really?
Truly. So
that's the damn snub.
Yeah. So him getting that opportunity, we're very happy, and that's very exciting. He has cooled off a bit recently, but you know what? He is going to be out there starting that All-Star game next week, and we're thrilled. And he edged out Mookie Betts on the Dodgers. The Dodgers, of course, have their fair share of representatives on the NL All-Star team.
I am sure. I do not doubt that.
They are well represented.
Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz were selected as reserves. Diaz, his 3rd All-Star selection. Alonso, 5th All-Star appearance in 7 years. Notable, he will not be participating in the Home Run Derby. He used a lot of big words to describe it, but honestly, all he really said to reporters is, I don't want to. And that is okay.
I know.
That's all right.
I know. I was a little bit surprised to see that from Pete. I'm not going to lie. Pete Alonso, we discussed this like a year ago, but there are a lot of you who were not with us a year ago. Pete Alonso home run derbies were starting to give me the ick severely.
Same.
Because it's one thing when you're out there and you're winning them like 2 or 3 years in a row, as he did a few years ago. That's fine. That's lovely. You know, getting the Mets on the national stage, whatever, the whole works. But the last year or two, especially last year, I'm watching that home run derby and he's like not even competitive. Now, Pete, let's not save yourself the trouble. Your wife's pregnant. Maybe just go home for
Perhaps
a
she
few
got the
days.
ick too. Going to the Home Run Derby and hitting like 10 home runs is not hot.
Nope. It
It's
is
just not attractive.
not for the Mets, not for the branding of the organization, not for Pete himself. I was happy to see that headline, no Pete in the home run derby. And that's not to say, listen, if he wants to do it next year and we have a rebirth, you know, maybe I'll give him a second shot. But we needed a break from the Pete Alonso home run derby experience.
And he even said, I haven't really in my career been able to enjoy like the 3 days off quite a bit. And as you mentioned, his wife is in fact pregnant. Perfect time to be like, you know what? I'm out.
Yep.
Like, I'm just going to go hang out. And I totally get why he made that decision. So that brings us to Juan Soto. And the reason why the word snub is being used is because only 7 players in MLB history have recorded at least 20 home runs, 70 walks, 15 doubles, and 10 stolen bases prior to the All-Star break in a season. And Soto's the only one that didn't make the All-Star game with those stats.
Yeah. This feels a little bit Lindor last year, everybody was saying that Lindor was what snubbed. It feels a little bit like years past for some other Mets players who we've talked about. He leads the... That's so funny. I wrote leads the NFL.
I know, I
must
saw
have
that.
been thinking about football. He leads the Major League Baseball, obviously, in offensive wins above replacement and walks, and he's second in on-base percentage, third in runs. Didn't make the All-Star team via initial player voting. Now, obviously, we can get it out there.
Let's be
He had
fair.
a really tough start to the year, and with all the hype that came with it, the $765 well-documented $1 million, that was a tough start, okay? So things were rough in Soto land to start the year, but in the last month or so, he's been really hot. Now, of course, voting closes. It was honestly too little too late for his All-Star campaign. You still look at that and you're like, all right, he's second in on-base percentage, third in runs, leads baseball in offensive wins above replacement right now. I mean, still feels like a bit of a snub.
For the record, him not making the All-Star game doesn't take all of that away. All of that's still true. He should feel proud of his efforts, but when he says, I've got to be better, I mean, listen, yes, we can't escape the fact that his start to the year sucked. That's the reason why this happened.
Yeah.
That's the reason why he's not there. Fair enough. A little consistency goes a long way, I think, in the All-Star voting, and he'll know that and see that for next year.
And honestly, I enjoyed, we've talked about Soto's accountability. The quote, I've got to be better, I liked that.
That feels like a real shift and change from some of the quotes that we have previously heard.
It's nice.
He also, I will say, is a big argue with the guy. However, for a while I was thinking, like I don't like this. It's an attitude thing I don't like to see, but he is so disciplined and walks so much that if he's right and it really is outside of the strike zone, then I'm okay with that, I've decided.
Juan Soto, you can say a lot of things about Juan Soto, but Juan Soto either has better vision than all of us, or, Juan Soto is not swinging at a pitch that is not a strike. He is the plate discipline. I've never seen anything like it.
And understand, I know we all see this because we watch it on TV, but none of you, or most of you, I'll say, including both of us, could not understand what kind of vision and hand-eye coordination, among other things, it takes to decide whether or not to swing when a ball is coming at you at that pace and at that speed.
It's a blur. It's got to be a blur.
I mean, we are talking about milliseconds that you are processing this information and making this decision. How long could it realistically take for the ball to get from the mound to home plate? I don't. A second? I mean, I really don't know, but so quick. So that's what impresses me the most about it, and I totally agree. I haven't seen something like it either. Next up, before the All-Star game, the Mets are off tonight. This is Monday night, and then they have 3 at the Orioles and 3 at the Royals. The Orioles are 5th in the AL East, 40-49 record. The Royals are 43-48, 3rd in the AL Central. You look at those and think, wow, those opponents are 2 opponents that aren't as good as the 2 opponents they just faced, and yet, I don't know. I'm feeling a little nervous still. I just got to see things play out, you know?
Certainly 2 beatable opponents, especially, right? You just had a great week. You got one more week before the All-Star break to kind of, I mean, how much does it really matter? A game and a half behind the Phillies, but to get back in first place if you want to, so you can at least say that you're in first for the All-Star break. The Orioles, I mean, the fall off in Baltimore, that is a sidebar episode that I need to get into at some point. The Orioles being in last place this year with all of the young talent that they've accumulated and the potential that we saw from them at the beginning of last season, but really in 2023 with Adley Rutschman and everybody that they had over there is crazy. If I'm an Orioles fan, I am like crying myself to sleep at night. It really feels like a lot of wasted potential and mismanagement. Anyway, all that to say, the Mets have 3 beatable pitchers coming at them there. Brandon Young on Tuesday, he has like a 7 ERA. I believe it's Tomoyoku Sagano on Wednesday, 6-5. ERA over 4, and then Charlie Morton. I don't even know how Charlie Morton is still around. He's got a 5.47 ERA on Thursday. So to me, that looks like 3 games could be wins. Certainly, you got to take 2 out of 3. But honestly, the Orioles are pretty bad. Sweep the Orioles, and then anything you do against the Royals is gravy. And all I'm thinking about when I think about the Royals is the probables for that series are not yet out because it's at the end of the week. But Seth Lugo, former Met, you bring on Seth Lugo right on back home. Trade deadline candidate.
Yeah, I like that. I'm interested in that. I agree. I think at this point, you can start feeling greedy again. Why can't the Mets start sweeping teams again? You know, like who is to say whether or not they... I don't know. I think something that's been on my mind, and we actually just talked about this in an episode that's dropping later in the week that we'll preview for you in a moment, but for a while, I think a lot of fans had that question of, truly, like, are the Mets a great team that we saw in the beginning of the year? Are they a not so good team that we just saw recently for the past month? Or are they somewhere in the middle? And I think that now in the maybe next few upcoming series, you start to again see what kind of team truly is this Mets team. Because I know we said it through the entire slump, but they're still in a great position. They're in a great spot right now. Let's just see if they can keep performing. And I just can't wait until they're fully healthy again. I almost feel like it's unfair to judge them until we see that side of them.
Yeah, in the second half, you come back from those 4 games off or 4 days off for the All-Star break. All of a sudden, it seems like it came really fast, but it is the second half.
That's crazy.
It's not June anymore. It's not May anymore. Like, these games really matter. So
oh my God.
If you're the Mets and you want to put yourself in a position to win the division, I mean, rack up some wins, go into the All-Star break on a high note.
Down on the farm, Acuna has 3 RBI, 8 runs, and 12 hits since being sent down. Not bad, not too shabby. Alvarez has 4 home runs since being set down on June 24th. He also has 8 hits, 8 RBI, 6 runs, and 13 strikeouts. What are you thinking about Alvy, and where do the Mets go from here?
I mean, the strikeout rate is certainly still up. He's been sent down for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Certainly still striking out at a rapid pace, but he's really hitting the ball hard. I mean, you just said some of those stats, 8 hits, 8 RBI. That's all nice. 4 home runs. Power is back, which is good to see. It is AAA pitching, but what can you do? That's all he has to face right now. He's hitting the ball really hard, and he's getting good quality at bats, which I think that's the whole reason you send him down, right? I'm saying AAA pitching, but you sent him down for the purpose to have a lower level competition of pitching being thrown at him so that he can make adjustments in his batting stance and in his approach and all of that. We here as sports reporters in Syracuse, oftentimes on the weekends, I will run the highlights of the Syracuse Mets on a Saturday, Sunday night, and Alvarez is now included in that since he is on the team. And I think you're just seeing a shift in, I mean, his stance looked totally different in a few of the home runs that I saw. He's like going back to his old stance from 2023. Great, go back to your old stance from 2023 because that one worked a whole lot better than the one we've seen the last 2 years. All that to say is neither Torrens nor Sanger has really, I guess, wowed anybody in the 2 or so weeks that he's been down. I think Alvarez deservedly should have his spot back maybe after the All-Star break if he puts up another good week. The Syracuse Mets have a full slate of games this week, and then they have their own All-Star break. They are at home. So I don't know. I don't know what the Mets' plan there was, right? At that point, all right, it's 3 weeks of time in the minors. Is that enough to call him back up? If he keeps smoking the ball, I think so.
I think also, you know, everyone is I think viewing it, or they did at the beginning, as a punishment, and you're certainly not. It's not congratulations if you're being sent down to AAA by any means. But also, I don't think that if you're a player, you have to necessarily view it completely that way. Like you said, it is a chance and an opportunity for him to get back into his groove, get some at-bats, face a lower level of competition, perhaps improve his confidence. I get it, you're still going to have to go back up and face MLB-level talent. But that being said, I don't necessarily think it was a bad thing. I think sometimes players just get into funks and they need to get out of it. And this is how they decided to fix it with him. And he's doing a good job. So perhaps it worked. We'll see when he comes back. Reinforcements are on the way, even outside of that, too. Great news. Jesse Winker is likely to rejoin the Mets on Tuesday in Baltimore. That's great. That's just great.
Big bat to get back. Big lefty bat to get back. Big option at DH to get back. The whole works. The Syracuse Mets right now, as of this moment, before Jesse heads on off back to the Mets, are like chock full of New York Mets. I mean, you got Winker, Manaea, Acuna, Alvarez. It is quite crowded here in Syracuse.
It is. Sean Manaea is starting tomorrow night in Syracuse. We're on it. We got Ashley on the beat.
I'll be in the conference room.
Yep. An exclusive, perhaps.
An exclusive with Sean, perhaps.
So we're hoping to hear from him. We'll put that up on our channel and let you guys know what he says and whatnot. But yeah, he's making a start on Tuesday. And then Mendoza essentially said, then we'll see where we're at. Hopefully he's a player for us towards the end of the next road trip. So in Kansas City, he's pitching Tuesday. We'll see how he comes out of that one. And then we have a decision there.
I'm not going to lie. I'm still feeling a little nervous about Manaea because the whole thing that happened with the delayed rehab, right? He's made like 6 rehab starts now. The loose body in his elbow, the cortisone shot. I am feeling nervous. This feels like, and this is my Mets fan trauma speaking, he goes out there tomorrow, or even if he has a successful start tomorrow, but the elbow's barking and things are delayed further. I don't know. I am hopeful, but I am feeling nervous on Manaea, especially if these loose bodies are there and they're going to be there for the rest of the season. I mean, that even raises questions. All right, maybe he is ready to go back up to New York, but he's at 75%. He can't go the whole way down the stretch through the playoffs. There's an innings limit. I mean, that's just a whole nother can of worms. Feeling hopeful, but a little apprehensive about Manaea.
So goddamn bummed out by that, but I understand why you're saying it. You also have Kodai Senga, who threw 3.2 innings pitched for AA Binghamton on Saturday, could rejoin the Mets in the Royals series later this week. That would also be money.
Kodai coming back before the All-Star break would be a huge win, even if it's one start before the All-Star break, because when that happened, I didn't think we were seeing Kodai until August at earliest. So, and I don't think you can overstate what it does for the Mets right before the All-Star break, you know, sort of the reset period of the season to get back their 2 front-of-the-line starters, all right? No more Paul Blackburn. He has the phantom injury that Tyler McGill has, by the way. He's on the IL. No more bullpen games. We are going to get Manaea back and Senga back. And while I just said I'm apprehensive about Manaea, hopefully those two can be the real anchors in your rotation that you have been missing for months.
I totally agree. And I think at the end of the day, even if he isn't at 100% to start, you prefer him in there over Blackburn, you know? Like, we gotta see. But I agree with you. I want to see what happens. End of the day, I still am a big believer in, if you're not feeling 100%, especially as a pitcher, when things are just so wacky, I'd rather them really continue to rehab until they feel ready to go out there and be 100%. Because honestly, nobody feels like watching somebody pitch who's only at 70% or who isn't fully themselves. So we'll see what happens.
And they said he's not getting the surgery until next offseason. So I would say a tempered down Sean Manaea is just something we could be dealing with. I'm hopeful not. But with the reality of the situation that he's not fixing it until the offseason, certainly possible.
And it's okay for you to feel that way. Hey, last but not least, we want you to look out for something that is going to drop later in the week. 2 episodes this week. You know how it is. We're trying to give you as much content as possible. Our episode with Keith Rad will be dropping this Wednesday night. Keith Rad is one of the Mets play-by-play broadcasters for the radio. He's been working with Howie Rose for the past couple of years. He has had a remarkable, amazing journey, truly, through his own ranks to make it to the show. And obviously, as broadcasters, that's something that we found really compelling, was listening about his story. But he also told us a bunch of things, and he gave us a lot of great insight about the New York Mets, where they're at right now, and where he thinks they're headed. So definitely be on the lookout for that episode. It's a good one.
Yeah, we just taped it with him. We're going to drop it on Wednesday night. Truly a fantastic. I mean, we laughed, we cried. Laughing and crying with Keith Rad was not something that I had on my bingo card for Monday, July 7th.
I knew you were going to say that.
So,
no, like we literally were, like there were tears in our eyes.
He was choked up, the whole works. So look out for that if you're a Mets fan. And then after that, next week it is the All-Star break, so we'll have some more fun topics to discuss. Maybe some trade deadline, targets for the Mets, some bits and bops, you could say.
Yep. We're always going to keep the content pumping out for you. Other than that, just be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We are really close after the last episode to 10,000 subscribers. So thank you guys so much. That episode was an awesome one, and we appreciated you being there and continuing to support us. We will see you back here sometime later this week when the next big thing happens.